Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So today's video is how to improve the sound of your guitar amplifier. This applies to combo amps, so stacks not included. Alright, so I went to Long & McQuade and I picked up a Yorkville guitar amp stand. I've been wanting one of these things forever, right? And there's different styles out there for different purposes. This is actually a great solution for in your home studio, jam room, man cave area, whatever you want to call your room of solitude for cranking up your stuff. So I've got the Boss Katana 100 watt 1x12 and well, among others, but this is my main amp for doing a lot of stuff with. On the floor it's okay. And it's got the little kickstand footy to raise the angle up. Problem is, I have to be another few feet away from the amp to actually hear stuff. I want to be able to sit down and play and just chill, you know, and have that great sound near my ears properly so I can hear better, and I also get to at the same time increase the overall sound quality in the room itself by having it up on a stand. Now, there's lots of ways you can do stands and save a lot of money. I mean, this thing was, with tax, was almost 70 bucks. So some people kind of go, yeah, kind of like I did, right? And there's other stands, like I said, for other purposes. Now, this one is a fixed angle, and it's a lot steeper angle than what that little footy does. And a lot of people do whine about that little footy, that Bosch should have made it longer. I agree, they should have. Anyways, so you can raise the height of this thing if you need to, but I think that at the bottom level it's more than high enough for in an area this size. But if you are in a much bigger area, you might want to jack it up a couple of notches, right? You should never have to have it all the way up, because then you're going to have to start finding some materials like wood to go in behind and lift this forward more. So that your sound is not hitting the ceiling, because the further away you go from an amp that's sitting on an angle, the more that sound is traveling up to the ceiling. So if you're gigging, for example, in a banquet hall that's rather large, auditoriums, that sort of thing, you're going to want to probably have the lower profile of the stand where it only takes the amp a couple inches off the ground, and then you can actually tilt it to how you need it to get out to your audience. This one I think is more good for in the room. This is a 10 by 11 room, so even something twice or three times the size of this would actually be a great solution. Even 4 to 5 times tops of the size of this room would probably be about the max, okay? And then you're going to have to go to the lower profile, because otherwise you're hitting the ceiling with the sound way too much. And that's never a good thing, because you want the people in the back to hear you, not just the people in the front and in the middle. You want everybody to hear you properly. But in a room this size, having to remove a lot of bass is a good idea too, because let's face it, the Katana can get pretty throbby, you know. Like this is just an acoustic simulator pedal with no other effect other than reverb. That sounds awesome set up like this, and I can hear everything nice and clear. I can hear the notes ring out. It's really good. On the floor it wasn't quite as appealing unless I was further away from the amp, and I got a condensed area here and only so much space to even sit and set up gear on the floor. I've got my GT1000, my vocal Boss box, I've got my Beat Buddy, and you know, it's kind of like, and all this stuff too runs through all my studio equipment too, right? Because whenever I do recording for actual music stuff, I don't even use my amp. I actually just run the processor board right into the sound system. And when I play at church now, I just run the board into the sound via the DI box. And then, of course, all my other equipment is tied in with my board, like my vocal box and whatever else I bring. And so that just goes into the PA, so I don't even need to take an amp with me. And it is actually at that point with our technology that more and more of us are actually using guitar processors even in place of regular pedal boards that have a bazillion pedals, because that's a lot of gear to carry, a lot of weight, a lot of money, you know. And you can buy a really kick-ass processor board for the floor with an expression / whammy pedal, or have a separate whammy on the side, whatever you want to do. Program it for your entire gig of whatever you're going to play for songs with all your effects, and just boom, 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 boom. You got them all dialed in right. Just boom, 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 boom. And that's one thing I really love about the GT1000 is it does anything I want in any order I want. I can. It's just a wonderful machine, right? And a lot of people are getting these boards and other types of boards like your Line 6s and your Nux and other ones, and they're finding that they're actually saving a lot of money in the end, you know, because when you have over 100 plus of the Boss effects built into the GT1000, you figure what it would cost you, you know, to actually buy those as individuals, plus power supplies for them, you know, plus all the cable connections and everything else. I mean, cha-ching, baby. But that's the way it's been done for years, because we didn't have these things, you know, especially to the way they are now, you know. And but ever since pedal boards have started to come out, we are less and less dependent on having to have amplifiers. Like, I still have my Marshall system, which I don't really get to turn it up that loud in here. And actually a few minutes ago, before I started doing this video, for the first time ever, I turned that thing up half blast, and oh man, wow, 4x12 cab, half blast on that head, just nasty. I love it, but I can't do it for very long because it hurts the brain. The Katana is not much different. I actually generally use it at the half watt range, but for this video I've got it on the 50 watt range. Now I can go 100 watt, 50 watt, or half watt, and it's a power soaking type circuit that retains your sound and your tone. So to give you some idea on that, let's start at the 100 watt. Now 50. Now half. Now half is going to be really quiet. So great for a bedroom amp too. Now we can turn that volume up. So now let's go to the 50 without touching the volume. Now go to the 100. As you can hear, it can get pretty obnoxious in here. And I'm not really pushing the amp that hard. The volume is like 10 o'clock. So yeah, it can get pretty loud. But anyways, so with the amp stand, it really helps increase the overall quality of the sound. And with open back cab amps, sound goes out the front and out the back, and you don't want that sound going straight up against the back of the wall. You want to cross cut it down on an angle so that, yes, it's going to help with some bass enhancement if that's what you're after, but it's not going to be over throbby where it's going to sound like crap. Okay? And when you're on a floor, even if you kick the thing back 2 inches, yeah, you're going to reduce some of that bass, which is fine, but in most people's cases, they're using their amps on the main level of their house, which means hollow, which means the basement is down below, which is going to put a lot of sound down, and it can create a really crappy sound for you at high volumes on certain effects that you're going to be running into your amp. So it's going to be too bleh, you know. It's kind of like running this simulator on the neck pickup. So here's the bridge first. Now let's go to the neck. See, it's really throbbed. So that's kind of what you can expect if you can't get your amp off the floor and at an angle distance away you're going to get that sort of effect, and you won't even be on your bridge, or on your neck, you'll be on the bridge getting that sound. And the idea is you want clarity and resonance that sounds good, you know? So, get an amp stand of some sort. Now, the other amp stands, they're very low profile. They're great for, especially on stage in big areas, because it only takes the amp a couple inches off the ground level, but then you can tilt it in a variety of angles to suit the size of your area in which you need to fill that room with. And those are actually the best for doing, like, even in church. If you've got a large sanctuary in your church, like we have a fairly large sanctuary, that would be ideal if I was going to use my Boss amp, right? Because then I could change the angles to wherever I needed it to go, so that I'm staying away from the ceiling with the sound, because sound dispersion is a big thing. Because you're going from a little tiny cone out to the speaker, and then you're pushing all that sound outward, and it goes wider and further as it travels. And you don't want to push it to the ceiling. You want to keep it down away from the ceiling, okay? And you want to keep the path nice and unobstructed as possible, other than the people that are in there. So you got to kind of compensate your angle for the amount of people that are going to be in there at the time when you've got this turned up, and you will get the best possible results with those type of stands. Whereas this one, it's a fixed angle, not so much in a big church. So, but in a room like this, or a couple times size bigger than this is definitely a great solution, and makes a huge improvement in sound and tone that you're going to hear out of your amp. So going back to one of my videos about you know, why your amp sounds like crap when you bring it home from the store, take a look at that video and then compare with this one, and you'll get a lot of insightful information that will definitely really help you out with even setting up your own gear properly within the home, especially that new amp that you just bought that you spent like hundreds of dollars on, and now you're crying the blues thinking it sounds like crap. Well, this could be the actual fix. But the other thing is too, is your acoustics are always different in music stores and at home too, so you may have to play around with different areas in the room to set the amp up. And you know, you have to have things to obstruct the sound, because you don't want it slamming right into a wall. You know, even coming out the front, you don't want it going right at the wall itself. You want to have things in the way that'll break up and scatter that sound, so that it tones it down and keeps it where it's supposed to be for sounding really good. And that's the whole idea behind stands too. They allow you to play around with that, and of course, like I said, the elevation removes a lot of bass. Because even before, I was getting a lot more bass response that I didn't want, and turning down the bass control is just not an option. Because guitar amps don't generally put out a lot of bass anyways, okay? They're just designed like that. That's why you don't plug a bass guitar into a guitar amp, or you're going to cook your amp eventually. But you can certainly plug an electric guitar into a bass amp and not hurt it, which is fine. But yeah, it kind of sucks that way, doesn't it? So anyways, that would be where we're at with this. So get yourself some kind of a stand, get your amp elevated, whether it's a closed back or open back. Closed back amps, you're not going to have to worry about the back sound going to the back wall. It's all coming out the front at that point. So with those, you're still going to have to be able to get it up on an angle to hear it properly, because just down on the floor really low, let's face it, most of the amps that us guys own and what's out on the market that we have in our house generally is about in this size category, maybe a touch bigger. And putting them right on the floor and having them vertical is not a good thing, because it's going to really kill the sound quality. So if you really want your amp to shine, find the sweet spot in the room, find the right sweet spot of an angle. You may have this same type of a stand, but you got to kind of take away some of that tilt and just have a little tiny bit of tilt, which you can just, you know, take a couple pieces of wood from in behind and just to kick it back forward. You may have to do that. It all depends on your needs and stuff for getting those angles set right. And that's pretty much about how you set up your amp in your home where you're using it, and working with the acoustics in that area as well. And if you have too much echo, you're going to have to find a way to reduce it. In this room, if I emptied it out, I could go, hello, and it would repeat, hello, probably a couple times. But not as bad as being up on the mountains, though. So filling my room up with my guitars on the walls, my amps in here, my keyboard, my sound system, with my monitors, my computers, their tables, and so on, it dampens the room enough that I got rid of pretty much all. Like, I can't notice any kind of an echo or reverb in here anymore, because I can go, hello, 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 and it's nothing. Okay, so I don't even have acoustic paneling on my walls. I don't need it. Okay, I do have my ceiling well insulated because my landlord lives upstairs. So going upwards in sound, not a real big issue there. It's pretty quiet. But you know, play with it, and that's what I can suggest. Now, if you really don't want to spend $70 or $60 or $50 or whatever on a suitable amp stand, then build something. Okay, it's really not that difficult. Or put it on a table and then, you know, tilt the amp up and jam some stuff underneath it to kick it up. Just remember one thing though, when you put this onto another solid surface that's flat, like a table, all the vibration and any bass in the amp itself that you do have is going to shoot right down the table and still into the floor. Not as bad, but you can also solve that with many different ways of trying to get like a fine tip type of a leg setting. So I would probably suggest in that case, what would work really well is if you had a table that had like dowel type legs. Take and sharpen those legs to a real fine point so that it's just the tip of each leg actually touching the ground, and that will eliminate all the bass that could possibly come through the amp and hit into the floor. That actually might work for some of you bass guitar players too. But, well, yeah, you guys, I know you want your bass. That's why it's called bass. But anyways, even a bass can sound like crap if things aren't set up right. So, just a little tidbit for you there. Anyways, guys, that's what I got for you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do the very best I can to answer as always. And as always, we shall see you on the next video. Ciao for now.